Stand Up.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Stand Up. I am very happy that JL Cauvin agreed to talk to me today, and I think you will be as well. We had a fun, thoughtful, interesting, thought-provoking conversation. As always, he's one of the smartest and funniest people I know, and I always love when he joins me. That's coming up right away because I've got no news segment for you here on a Friday. It is late already. I stayed up late with many of you at our Hangout last night. We had a great time. Almost, I feel like 3 hours last night. Thank you to everybody who joined us. And if you're coming to Las Vegas for Pod Jam next week, join me on Sunday for an informational and planning meeting. Sunday night, 8 p.m., Zoom Hangout. Look for the link. Make the time. We'll just be there for about an hour to talk about logistics, let everybody know what's going on, and if you have any questions or anything else. Sunday night, 8 p.m., Pod Jam in Las Vegas, informational and planning. Hope to see you there. Also, got great conversation with John Avlon coming up. Drop another episode of Anna Marie Cox's show here on the Stand Up with Pete Dominic feed over the weekend. Planning on talking with Ophira Eisenberg and Christian Finnegan, which should drop later or tomorrow as well. So a lot happening, which is why I'm not doing the full news segment this morning. Sorry, Ryan, and everybody else who looks forward to it and having the show there in the morning that I got it up a little late. But I hope that you'll enjoy this conversation with JL Cauvin, who has really found his groove with this new iteration of his podcast, Rain on Your Parade. He has a great producer / co-host who joins him every day, and I highly recommend you listen to it. Say every day, every week when he drops the podcast. Go subscribe right now to Rain on Your Parade. Hire JL to do a cameo appearance for you. You can see him in Las Vegas with us next week. Follow him, support him, like him, say hello to him, whatever. He is one of our favorites, and I'm always happy when he joins me, including today, right here in mid-sentence, is where we start with JL Cauvin, which I can't do without any of your support. So thank you so much. Patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Let's do it. Speaking of the best, your podcast is, I'm a huge fan. You've really nailed it. You've done a lot of different things. You've experimented, but you found your way with Rain on My Parade.
Rain on Your Parade. Nobody's raining on my parade. I'm raining on your parade.
I forgot the name of the podcast I'm trying to tout, and I realized at the last second. Rain on Your Parade, which is exactly what you're doing, but you've got this great co-host and producer who's really funny and smart, and you're performing, like having him there is, anyway, I love it.
Thank you.
You've got me hooked, and I was mad that there wasn't an episode out yet this month. I feel like that's how
there was every Thursday, and I've loaded them up for the entire month.
Is there March episodes? I looked.
Yeah, it's called Death. I talk about death.
Well, I listened to Democracy. Can we talk about that for a second?
Absolutely.
Because you make two great points there that I want you to make here. So you don't even need to go download or give them the statistics on Rain on Your Parade. No, go subscribe.
Just to tell you, the last episode of this month, like since we've already pre-recorded, since I'll be traveling, including to Las Vegas, the last episode of this month is called, it's going to be called Old People as like a joke, but it's really about elder care in this country. And I think that's
great.
As great as I thought Democracy was, I think Elder Care might be my best episode.
Okay, so 2 episodes ago it was Democracy, then you've got Death, and soon Elder Care, which is such an important issue that I've really avoided discussing here on this podcast. And throughout my career, I have not talked about that. I've had plenty of listeners who are dealing with parents or themselves, whatever, that have strong experiences and opinions. And I really need to talk about it. So maybe you can give me a preview of that if there's time. But because I listened to Democracy episode of Rain on Your Parade, you just make this great point that needs to be made all the time about the Electoral College and how underrepresentative it is of the public opinion and the values of Americans. And if you just make this point that if it actually had a representative Senate and the Electoral College didn't work the way it did, we'd have such a different country.
Right.
We'd have such a different country. And I wanted you to kind of just flesh that out and make that point here.
Sure. I think obviously the founders in their infinite wisdom wanted states to be represented. I think the part of the problem is the Republicans now know the less representative of the country that they become, the harder they will hold on to this system that stops majority rule. And I read this book by Levitsky. These two authors, they wrote How Democracies Die. This was a huge 2018 bestseller for them. And they wrote a new one called Tyranny of the Minority, which of course I felt weird reading on the subway, thinking it was people would think it was a manifesto about how the white man is losing his power. But it's about political minorities. And they basically make the argument that minority rule should be protected in this country for only two reasons: individual rights and voting rights. In other words, those are the two things that the majority should not be able to snuff out, even if they want to. Example, I don't think gay people should be able to vote. Well, if I could get 52% of the country to vote for that, that's majority rule. But that's the tyranny the founders, when you're snuffing out individual rights or democracy-related rights, that's when we need those mechanisms to prevent that. But everything else, their argument is but everything else should be majority rule. Like
healthcare and guns and these are, energy and climate. And to be honest, because, it's a fucked up reading of the Second Amendment, but one could argue that the Second Amendment is an individual right. You can argue that, and the Supreme Court certainly has bolstered that. But in general, voting, your right to vote shouldn't be subject to majority rule. And your rights as a citizen and as a human being under our government shouldn't be able to be suppressed just because the majority doesn't like you. But everything else should be majority rule pretty much. And our institutions, the Electoral College, the irony is the more unrepresentative it becomes, the more motivated the grossly overrepresented have to keep it, because it would require something that people in this country no longer seem to have, which is, hey, I may lose, but this is for the greater good. And this is becoming kind of a theme in my podcast, which is why the elder care discussion came up, where I said, I think the difference between, and the way I look at things a lot of the time, and I've become a much more I've always been sort of a sympathetic person, as aggressive or giant as I may be. But I've said that Republicans only care about an issue when it happens to them, whether it be Dick Cheney's daughter being gay, and then all of a sudden he can be a pro-LGBTQ person. But before that day, he wasn't. I would just say it's a human characteristic. It's not just Republicans. It's people all over the world have a certain opinion and experience where they only care about things that happen to them. I think it's true of way outside politics, but certainly if you care about politics and your opinions are such that, you're probably a Republican. I always think what you're saying, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but Democrat, I'm sitting here getting my ass kicked in my town for trans kids. I don't even know any trans kids. I just think it's wrong. And so I'm advocating, but it's not for me. Right. And I don't know necessarily these kids. I know trans people and I know my morals and my values. But that's the difference, is what you're saying, where Republicans care about, their kids.
Yes. And that was the argument I was sort of making in terms of, my brother and sister-in-law, one of their sons is autistic. And I have seen the struggles with that. And they are people very intelligent, very motivated, of means. And I think when I see that is not just, man, that's really tough what they're going through, or that's admirable how they're persevering. I also think, what is the poor family? What is the woman or man on food stamps or who has a teen that's autistic? What are they doing and what are we doing for them? And that's an easy example. You can take elder care or special needs people, and those are kind of I won't go into the whole episode, but it really is. I'm very proud of it. So that's at the end of the month. But
great. Can't wait to listen and share it.
We don't have enough people who say, well, if this is for the greater good, then let's do it. Because people do this, but the Republican Party especially believes my desire is the greater good. They are linked. Just like my Christianity also happens to align perfectly with the MAGA platform, even though it can't, under any objective reading, it can't. Of the Bible, of Jesus's teachings, it doesn't mesh. But you've created this world where my interpretation of Christianity, in a wonderful coincidence, happens to be the MAGA agenda. Who could have seen that coming? And my belief in democracy only goes as far as my side winning.
Yes.
And as long as they know that, we're going to have one day, Wyoming is going to be representing not a senator, 2 senators from Wyoming will be representing one resident, and California will be falling into the Pacific because there's 200 million people there with a senator per 100 million.
Yes, it's a really great example and explanation as to why we're at here. And we're a different
country also. That's the thing. We love to talk. The founders wanted us to represent the states. Well, that's other than like fucking Texas. Let's be honest. I live in New Jersey. I liked being a New Yorker. I could live in Ohio. I could live in Colorado. I could live I'm an American. I live in America. There are certain states that have certain things and I can choose different, like Florida is not a place I would move to. But for the most part, there's a lot of states I could move to and be content. And this idea of like my state, like just being honest, this isn't 1810 or 1790 where your state is like basically your country. It's different now. And this idea of holding on to as if each state really represents the same thing it did 230 years ago.
God, there's so much disparity between the rights even that people have to some extent, much less access. I mean, certain many states don't have Medicaid expansion. So many states have hardly any gun regulations, or, you've got all kinds of issues with the schools. And so many states are anti-union. It's such a different place. That is true. And I mentioned a bunch of states that I'd be fine in. I didn't mention the states that I would never think of moving to. But it's like I just genuinely think we're not in that same place where like Wyoming must have an equal voice as California. Well, there's no doubt about that. Right. For sure. Yeah. And they do. That's the problem. And that's why we have so many good things that we don't have because of that. It's terrible. You also talked a little bit. Can I hear from Vinny? I love this Vinny guy. I cannot get enough of him on wherever he is, on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, on your podcast. I really feel like I get him. Yeah,
I feel like I have to. Vinny is like he emerges on us. Like he doesn't just show up like that.
He doesn't just show up. Well, can Vinny just tell me about himself a little bit?
All right, Pete. I'm just a guy. I work for a living. I didn't go to college, but I worked my ass off. My grandparents came to this country. They didn't speak English, but they didn't complain. Right. They didn't ask Uncle Sam for anything. I mean, they got help from the community, and they got food stamps, and they got some welfare, and they got, free meals at the school, but they didn't ask for anything. They just came here and worked hard.
Right, sure.
And they fought. And now you got all these people. I don't have no problem with nobody. Okay? You can be black, white, red, teal, fuchsia. I don't give a fuck. Wow. You got to work hard and you got to love this country. Okay? Because I don't need that shit where people are burning the flag and not standing up for the anthem. Like, yeah, I'll scream out, at a Ranger game, the Flyers I'll be nice, are homosexuals in the middle of the anthem, but it's not in a disrespectful way like Kaepernick.
Right. Well, let me just ask you about the flag question real quick. Where are you on that rainbow flag? When you see the rainbow flag and people flying it, whether it be outside their home or just, a bumper sticker, you have any problem with that at all?
I can't tell you. Here's the thing. I can't tell you what to do. I'm not one of those guys who's going to tell you, you got to take that. I mean, if it's in my neighborhood, we got to look out for you. We got to look out for the neighborhood. So I'm going to say kindly, can you take down your Skittle flag? This is an American town, not a rainbow town. But if you want to put it in your house or on your car, I can't do nothing about that. Like, I'm not trying to be like a dictator.
How do you feel about those red or blue striped flags? The firefighter cop supporting American flags. Are you cool with those flying?
Well, we got to support the cops.
Right. So you have no problem with them flying the American flag. The flag
has nothing to do with America. Cops defend America. They are the front line, stopping people from doing, looting. I know the protests, the George Floyd protests, they call them. That was looting.
And lastly, I just got to ask you, I thought it was really weird. I heard you the other day basically come out saying you had some admiration for Hunter Biden, which I thought was a unique take. What is it about? I know you're not a Joe Biden supporter, but somehow you admired Hunter?
Everybody grew up with a guy like, I got a friend who's kind of like a Hunter. You get you party too hard, and you fall into some trouble. And also, I'm sure you heard the part where I complimented Hunter. I think he's more Italian than Irish, if you know what I mean. What are you saying? He's got the brajol of a Sicilian, and
you've seen the pictures.
Well, I've been suggesting that maybe he's like Hunter Bidenucci instead. Maybe they shorten the name to because Italians would discriminate. Right. You know this. We would discriminate very badly in this country. Okay, sure. Some people think we get it even worse than the blacks, but nobody wants to talk about that. I know a lot. In my neighborhood, that's sort of
in my family, my
counter-trailing
in-laws.
Wisdom, the counter-trailing, the wisdom is
counter-trailing.
Like the general wisdom in the town is that like we had it arguably. You don't know. People don't know. They used to put up signs saying, Italians need not apply. So I heard. I never saw one of these signs, but I've heard that that's what they used to do.
I don't know if that was the case.
So Biden might have shortened his name to be like, not so discriminated and prejudiced against.
Maybe that's why he shortened his name. That's the only way to explain it. Well, Vinny, we're out of time with you, but I always appreciate when you stop by. I'm going to get JL back. But thank you very much for stopping by. I really love to hear your take on things. It seems to be pretty open-minded.
All right, P. Well, don't be so woke.
My bad. That is, you want more of that? Just follow JL everywhere. It's my favorite new impression. It's so good. I personally could have done that to the next 30 minutes. I didn't want you to stop doing it on your podcast or here. We got to do it in Vegas. I want to ask you, I got to ask JL Cauvin. I haven't really heard you talk about it. And I'll be honest with you and everybody listening, because I was at the school board meeting getting my ass kicked last Thursday. I still haven't seen the State of the Union. Did you watch it?
Yes.
What is your opinion of Joe Biden?
Loved it. I thought it was, I thought he was like as good as he's going to be. I thought he was, I think the moment, and this is Donald Trump shrinks. Let's just forget all the other shit like that Trump's done horribly. I think Donald Trump shrinks at big moments. Okay. Like whether it's in front of Putin, whether it's COVID, he's all bluster. He's all talk. He's all bullshit. And I think this is what I talk about on the democracy episode. Like, it's like he's all about the symbols of freedom. He's bald eagles and apple pie and Lee Greenwood. None of the stuff that matters to being an American or helping America. It's nice, but it doesn't matter. And
is it nice?
Well, apple pie is tasty. The bald eagle is a majestic bird. I actually like Lee Greenwood's song. I know
Okay. But I see what the point is. Go ahead. It's
the old statement, that Cory Booker's always saying, faith without works is dead. Like patriotism without actual devotion to democracy is nothing. That's how I would phrase it. Like, it's like saluting the flag and then doing everything you can to undermine America's true values. Is that patriotism? To a lot of people in this country, it absolutely is.
Did you see Jon Stewart's bit on similar to this on the Daily Show? Not similar to this, but making a point similar to, the performative patriotism. It's not real. It's not in any way what the Constitution says.
When did he do that?
On Monday night.
Oh, well, that's funny because my episode was last week, so it wouldn't shock me if
I'm sure they listened and lifted it.
Listening to Rain on Your Parade.
No doubt about it.
But I think Joe Biden, for all his oldness and slow gait, I think the State of the Union showed that when he needs to, when he wants to, when it's important, this was a different Joe Biden. And people can make jokes about, he was probably hopped up on drugs, or he realized it's an important moment and he picks his spots. He's not a performative patriot, but he understood the weight of this moment to show the country that he was had vitality and conviction and some strength. And I thought it was a very good performance. The only thing, and I knew it would be an issue, that Fox News would blow out of proportion when he referred to the man who killed that nursing student as an illegal. And I knew that would be some issue somewhere. And I joked in a blog that I recently wrote saying, can we carve out an exception, progressive left, that if you're an undocumented worker, but so far the only work you've done is to murder someone, calling you an illegal is not the worst thing that can happen. I know that it's not the preferred nomenclature, but in that moment, he's calling Marjorie Taylor Greene's bluff, and he did it, and he shut her up, and he moved on. I don't think and it's one of those things. I've often said this, growing up the way I did with on one side, the old school Irish American, the other side, Haitian. I've heard a lot of inappropriate, non-politically correct things in my life. And you judge the person, you judge the person. I'm not saying full on slurs, but somebody says, a good example is if Joe Biden said Oriental to describe somebody today. Would that be inartful? Yes. Would I think that Joe Biden hates Asian people? No. I would think he's an 81-year-old man who slipped up and didn't say the right term. And I feel like sometimes that's one area whereas if Donald Trump did a fake Asian accent going ting tong, which I believe he did once.
Well, if he didn't, we heard it right there. Thank you for that.
Well, I'd be like, I'm pretty sure that's what's in his heart is disrespect and diminishment for Asian people.
It's also in his mind when he sees an Asian person, those sounds, as you made them, are what goes through.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought Biden was great. I thought Katie Britt. I'm going to give you, and this is, again, if people want to check out my blog, if they're readers, I did a recap of Katie Britt. And I said, here's where I really lose respect for Republicans. Is at least own your brand. For 363 days a year, you are rough. You're the party of Trump. You're not PC. You don't care about diversity. You don't care about representation. It's merit and it's balls to the walls aggressive, and that's what you get. None of this namby-pamby progressive nonsense. Matt Gaetz should have delivered the rebuttal, and I'm not even kidding. I'm not trying to give the GOP advice, but Matt Gaetz is, for all his negatives, sharp and TV ready. That guy loves being in front of the camera. Yeah. He is aggressive.
But traditionally that slot goes to an up-and-comer to give them...
And it destroys the up-and-comer. Like it's like a sacrificial virgin. They're like, it is now your time to jump into the rebuttal.
They just push them on the edge of the volcano and then push them in. Yeah.
If Matt Gaetz did it, he's a true MAGA believer. He's and you're that party.
Well, I'm glad he didn't, because it would have been... I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad they didn't listen to your advice, that you didn't give it ahead of time, because that would be effective, and we don't want that.
Right. And Katie Britt was an embarrassment.
You thought she was embarrassment.
Yes. It was like, I mean, and Republicans thought it was a joke too. It was a horribly panned.
It got roundly. Let me ask you, I know you got to go in a couple minutes. How much time do you have?
We have 15 minutes.
Okay. I got to ask you about this. I'm hoping that you're read in on and prepped and locked and loaded to really unload. I'd love to get the exclusive. I didn't see if you've unloaded on Aaron Rodgers yet.
I just posted a video of mine from City Winery, the show we did in Pittsburgh, where a guy asked me from the crowd to talk about Aaron Rodgers, and I wasn't going to, because I said, I don't want to do this Tik Tok forced Q&A thing that you're trying to make happen. But then I said, you know what? I'm glad Aaron Rodgers got injured. That's my take on Aaron Rodgers. And I said, he seems like a guy who thinks he's smarter than he is. He speaks like slowly, like everything he's saying is deep and profound. I remember watching Hard Knocks on HBO. This was the basis of the joke, where like he wouldn't laugh at anything. He was always trying to forcibly maintain this kind of placid demeanor, like I'm too cool for this magician who's entertaining us. Everybody else is losing their shit, and he's just like nodding like, mm-hmm. And everybody laughed at his jokes. I compared it to reading emails from billionaires at law firms, where it's like, oh my God, you're amazing. It was so great meeting your wife, Michelle. I think your ideas were great. Like, a billionaire, I don't think ever gets the truth. I think they are so powerful and have so much that people are just like fawning almost as a default. And I saw that same energy around Aaron Rodgers. And I said, I knew the guy was bad news when I watched Hard Knocks, because of the way he carried himself. He's obviously a talented football player, but they're like, and I said, no wonder, at first I was like, how could Olivia Munn go from Aaron Rodgers to carrying the child of, a carnival barker with a whiny voice named John Mulaney.
How dare you?
That's just the voice. I'm just talking about the voice. I'm just describing the voice. I'm almost there. I'm almost there, Olivia. Right there. Ah. That's my impression of.
Oh, wow. That's John Mulaney having sex with Olivia Munn?
Yes.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that impression.
Just going, I hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate Aaron Rodgers. I hate Aaron Rodgers.
I didn't even say, though, the thing. I don't know if you were done, but
Alex
like
Jones,
you were
the Sandy Hook. He's like a Sandy Hook.
Well, so yeah, just in case you don't know about it, Aaron Rodgers his name has been floated as a VP, potential VP running mate to run with RFK Jr., the popular, famous anti-vaxxer who's let down his entire family or what's left of them. And we learned as a result, everybody just started talking, and two CNN reporters, Pamela Brown and Jake Tapper, reliable people who put their careers at stake if they were wrong about this or if they were lying, that Aaron Rodgers was into the conspiracy world far beyond his questioning of COVID vaccine, his thoughts on Jeffrey Epstein, and his opinions on 9/11. Rodgers has outed himself as a Sandy Hook conspiracist, believing that the 2012 school shooter in Connecticut who killed 20 children, 6 adults, was actually a government inside job, and he brought the matter up unprompted to strangers, according to CNN reporter Pamela Brown, who wrote in 2013 that he did that. So that's the background of it to her. He said it to her, and she was like, get away from me.
Right. There's only one difference between Alex Jones and Aaron Rodgers. Alex Jones would never lose his woman to John Mulaney.
Wow. That is hilarious.
I'll give the devil his due. He wouldn't allow that to happen.
So what are your thoughts on, anything else you've already said about what kind of guy he is? I guess that's your response. The response that you gave that night. There's something about, I almost don't mind the kooky conspiracy theorist, who's like just kind of out there and I don't, his brand of, he has such a quiet. I don't know who that is anymore. I think you buy one, you buy them all is my feeling these days.
I'm saying, but presenting.
I don't know who this middle ground conspircy theorist guy. He is a friendly guy. He just thinks that the government is.
Like kooks in movies.
Yeah, they don't know. Everybody who believes, they all believe. If you believe the fluoride. Yeah, I think. Yeah. I wish you were right. I wish there was some middle ground conspiracy. He
is. If Tom Brady had this kind of self-importance with 7 Super Bowl rings, I could see it. 1 Super Bowl ring, and the guy thinks he's, the next philosopher king. He is playing sports doesn't have anything to do with being. It's a crazy idea that RFK would even consider him, much less Jesse Ventura as the other name being thrown out there. They're going to get votes. There's going to be but I think it's going to be largely people, almost entirely people who would not vote for Joe Biden anyway, who would give a vote to Robert Kennedy Jr. and VP. But I think Aaron Rodgers, he rubs me the wrong way, obviously. And I think that's been validated. Like the more he speaks, the more is it a kind of thing? I sometimes wonder how long he's been like this. Because obviously Sandy Hook is a long time ago. If he was like this kind of a dude that long ago, because I remember when Mick Jagger and David Bowie were on the cover of the Daily News, they had just had Dancing in the Streets, the terrible remake of a song that they did together as a duet. But then the cover of the Daily News infamously was Dancing in the Sheets. Bowie's or Jagger's wife said she caught them in bed together. And my uncle had said to me, he goes, yeah, these guys are like, at this point, like Roman emperors or something. It's like they've had everything. They're probably just experimenting. Be like, I can't get off anymore from just models and orgies. Something else has to trigger my hormones. And I feel like is Aaron Rodgers that kind of a dude where it's like, I've been praised and worshipped as this hero quarterback for so long. It's not fun anymore. Like, how can I get a different vibe? How can I get like,
your psychoanalysis
things.
Your psychoanalysis is always interesting, but I don't love this because it seems like you're giving him some kind of reason or credit for as to why he would think or behave a certain way. And to me, and I know you're not saying this, but I'm just not allowing for your psychoanalysis because I just want to like,
he might just be a bad person.
I want to live in a country, in a community. I want to live around people who all agree that the worst thing that can happen is that your child could die. We all agree that's the worst thing that can happen. And the second worst thing that could happen is that someone would come and deny that either your child existed or that they died.
Right.
I want to live in a world and a country and a community where we all agree, despite all of our differences, that that is the most reprehensible behavior short of hurting a person. You know, I just can't. It is so terrible to think that you would do that. And what kind of person can do that? And if you do think that, by the way, go up to them. They would never want you to, but go up to the victims and tell them their face so they can, maybe some of them would like you. Because I know if it were me, I'd want Aaron Rodgers to say that to me so I could gouge his eyeballs and esophagus out of his skull.
He would beat your ass. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
That is my joke too, because, you know, when I do a joke, you might have seen me do it. Like, people say, you have beautiful daughters, you better get a shotgun. They're implying that if someone assaults my daughter, I'm going to go fight him. So my daughter goes out with some guy and he assaults her. Then I go up to stand up for him, and then he beats the shit out of me too. Like, what could be worse? He just assaulted my daughter. Now I go to stand up for him, and some young man beats the hell out of me as well. That's exactly what that would be. You're absolutely right.
Right. You and your daughter are going to like the rare Me Too for father daughters meeting.
Same guy.
We are both victims.
When I was younger, a homeless guy like jumped me because I was mouthing off to him and I deserved it. And 2 weeks later, I saw him and my buddy's like, well, let's get him. I'm like, I don't want the same homeless guy to beat the shit out of me twice, dude. How much worse can it get? He kicked my ass the first time.
And I apologize because I was in like comedy mode when you asked me about Aaron Rodgers. But of course, the idea, like, there is something wrong with you if you think, because this is like the moon landing conspiracy kind of thought. I don't buy it.
That's fun.
But there's something about that that's like, yeah, you think government conspiracies. People think those all the time. But the idea of thinking that
there's a reason to fake that, by the way, to win the space race. There's a motive for it. That's they
would say gun control. They would say to take away our Second Amendment, and it's.
But that would be stupid. But that would be a stupid way of doing it. It would if it just doesn't make any sense. The first logical question you ask would unravel the whole thing.
And by the 25th school shooting, it's like I guess they need a different plan, because it seems like fake slaughter of kids isn't working, let alone real. God forbid it's real. Right. That also isn't working. Right. But certainly it's time for a new plan if the fake murder of children isn't working.
9/11 attacks didn't work either for the government, the neocons plan, or the Israelis or whoever is being insinuated in those conspiracies.
But I think those are the kind, just like a Trump voter, you know, I think there are seeds, there is something in your makeup that makes you susceptible to these, besides I lost my job or my girlfriend dumped me. There is something, maybe not innate, but something that has been nurtured in you for long enough that I would call it elements of a bad person believe that stuff. It's not just
broken.
I didn't know, like when people say, when people will say something about Trump voters, and I'm going, but why aren't I susceptible to any of his bullshit? Like, why do I see through it? Like, I think it's because I have a fairly formed conscience and a sense of right and wrong. Like, it's not just like, I didn't know what was happening. And then Trump told me Mexicans are rapists. And I said, you know what? You got a point there. Like, I don't think a good person hears that message and goes, finally, somebody's saying it.
Well, it goes back to what your point was earlier, though. If it's my experience, then it is true. And I had a bad experience one time when I went to Toronto. So Toronto's a shitty place.
Right. Yeah, it's what a
filled with Oriental people.
Yeah, you can't say that.
By the way, I've never even been to Toronto, so I don't know who's there, much less my politically incorrect language. Well, I will let you go. I appreciate you joining me, man. I loved listening to your latest podcast.
In my bio, if you could adjust it, it still says righteous prick when you post my
I cut and paste your bio. I do that. I will fix it. I'm sorry. And then not only will I fix it, I'll write a real nice, thoughtful review of Rain on your parade, because it's so good. You found it. You really did. your producer there, Mike, give him all the flowers from me, because he really figured you out, and he knows, you know, when to let you go, when to change direction. He's a great producer and a smart, funny guy. So
hell yeah.
Really, can't wait to see you in Vegas. Anything you want to say about Vegas and to the people?
Making podcasts great again, stand-up show. Everything's going to be A+. And
live taping. You're gonna do a live taping of Making Podcasts Great Again. That's the one you're gonna do. So you're gonna be in character.
Yeah, I'm not going full suit Trump. I'm going like outdoor golf rally Trump, blazer, white shirt, hat, wig. We're gonna, you know, I'll great. You know, a little jerk off dance for the crowd. You know, we're really gonna. Oh,
I can't wait for that. Oh, that's great. It's gonna be so much fun. I can't wait to see you there. Unfortunately, you're not gonna hang out with us on Friday night because you're going to see Bruce Springsteen. I've
been told for years and he just happened to be there that night. And I said, all right, I'm doing it.
All right. Well, we'll see you on Saturday.
Concerts only go like 9 hours, so I'll just catch up with everybody at like 4 a.m.
We'll still be up. We will still be up, I'm sure. No, Saturday is an early morning for me. So, but Friday night, we'll be partying Thursday and Friday night. So I will let everybody know the details that's coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We got one more in. I love it. Very funny, very thoughtful, and thought-provoking. Always love JL Cauvin. Go listen to his new podcast, Rain on Your Parade. You won't be sorry. As thoughtful as always that he is. Have I said thoughtful yet? I repeated that word too many times, and now I'm annoyed with myself. But not you. You are my bumblebees listening all the way to the end. I thank you so much for that, and I've got a lot more coming. I'll be posting over the next couple of days. Choose to listen to it or not. I hope that you enjoy your weekend and find peace and love and happiness and joy. But if you don't, know that you can come back to it later. Love you guys. Talk to you later. Jon Carroll taking us out as always. Bye-bye.
Stand up. Well, there's a whole lot more of us who know what's right. They'll keep right on ignoring us if we keep sitting tight. You got to open up the window to let in some light. You gotta stand up. That's right. You got to rise up. You got to stand up. You gotta stare the devil straight in the eye. We got to let him know it's his turn to go. See it clear when all you hear is off of your butt, get down off of your fence. Even if it ain't a very friendly audience, well, they'll begin to listen when you start making sense. And you stand up. No need to point your rifle to defend your town. Just stand up. You know they can't deny you what you're laying down. Boy, you better stand up. Show your face of every color, yellow, black, red, and brown. She's the place where every lost child will finally be found. There's only one thing to do before we stand our ground, and that's stand up. Stand up. Well, the founding fathers saw a land for all. They had to stand up. They had a keen imagination for a crystal ball, drawing all the plans of stand up. But all they had to go on was the time they were in, with other causes for laws, and since they weren't even sin, they knew that change was gonna come before the change could begin. They had to stand up. All right, they had to stand up. We got to stand up. We got to look the devil square in the eye. We gotta let him know it's his time to go, and make it clear when all we hear is a lie. See him flee the scene of that experiment if you stand up. Alright, we got to speak up, we got to reach up and raise your voice in every way you know how. Don't be toes up, you got to show up. Ain't no better time to do it but now. No need to pledge allegiance to no wanton tribe. Rise up, show obedience to the voice inside, and listen well and